Hello, today we're going to be running through some NFS mounting and some network configuration and AIX. NFS, what is NFS? Basically, NFS, you have a remote file system. Uh, you have server A and you have server B. Server A has a file system, or server 1. Server 1 has a file system that it wants to share, for example, /apps. And then server 2 wants to mount that file system onto its own, so they can share that file system, read and write that file system. Now, this is a very old protocol written by Sun long time ago, and it's pretty straightforward. It's a client-server relationship. You have a server, NFS server, and you have a client. The NFS server exports the file system. That's what it's referred to. Sharing the file system, or it actually exports the file system. And the client, all it does is and network mounts the file system onto its own uh, onto a mount point. There are just a few daemons that's running. The RPC is a remote procedural calls that NFS uses to communicate back and forth between the client and the server. Mount D it uses the remote procedural calls. The NFSD runs on the server side. It handles the requests and everything, and the RPC Mount D handles all the RPCs. That one's on the server side also. On the client side, basically you run the mount command. There's a daemon called BioD that handles the request between the NFS and the NFS server and the NFS client. Okay, so let's go ahead and this is gonna be basically a simulation. I do not have two servers. It might appear like I have two servers, but I do not. Server 1 and server 2, it's a simulation. Um, Now the command is ls nfs exp. Okay, they showed ls. Remember, always does a list. Shows you. This shows you the NFS exports. So when you run the command, nothing comes up. Okay, you can do a SMIDI NFS if you like. Easy to remember. Go to the NFS window, go down, hit enter, select add to the directory of export list, and put in your file system name /apps. You have a choice of some options over here if you like. You can restrict it to certain hosts if you like. You can give it a read only, or give it a list of hosts and so forth and so forth. You have some options over here. Is it a public, or is it it says anyone read it? Yes, we can make it public so it's accessible to everyone. Both or now. Do you want to export it now, or do you want this to be exported every time the server reboots? Okay, so if this is going to be a one-time deal, then you just want it to say now. If you want this to happen every time or on the next reboot, then you can say restart or both. So we just want it right now. We don't want it later on. Okay, basically hit enter, and that's it. Very straightforward. Escape 0 to get out of there. If I do ls nfs exp and enter, and now look, see, we have the /apps file system, which is made public to all and is using the basic protocols for authentication. Okay. Now we will go to our simulated server 2. Now we have a mount point that we're going to use, MNT, pretty standard on all AIX and Linux servers. All you gotta say mount space the server, okay, colon the file system, space slash MNT, where you want to mount it, and hit enter, and that's it. Very straightforward. If I do a df-g, you will see that it's mounted. Okay, it doesn't have any device name, of course not, because it's a server. It gives you the server and what file system it's mounted to, and what file system is available over here. Okay, so that's it. That's pretty much it for NFS. You just have to make sure that these file systems are these daemons are running. Usually, it's a pretty much straightforward. You can stop and start these daemons yourself, but I didn't have to do that. I just had to when I did a Smitty NFS, it started up the necessary daemons up for me. Okay, so let's see the demons right now. Okay, so here are the demons. I didn't start any of these demons when I went to Smitty NFS and created the export list. It started up these demons on its own when I did it the first time. So let's see what else is in here. Here's the example that they do uh, for NFS. Okay, so you can have multiple file systems here. That's how it lists it. You can actually go through and list them yourself through VI. And then if you want to export it, all you have to do is say export fs minus a, and that exports everything on that on in that file. So it goes to the etc exports file, and it exports everything there. Okay, this is something that I didn't know, the minus I option. Um, don't really use it a whole lot, but looks like this is something. If you need to do something temporarily, you want to share out the file system, you can just do a export fs minus I and do a temporary sharing export of the file system without updating any file. Kind of nice. You can go to Smitty NFS or Smitty RM NFS EXP to remove it, or the terminology is unexport the file system. And when you do enter it, the option I showed you that you want it persistent with reboot. Not I just don't want to mount it now, but I also want to mount it next time when the file system when the server reboots. It makes an entry in the etc file system file. Okay, it actually makes an entry. It makes an entry in this directory. Okay, and in this directory, so anytime the server reboots, it goes to this directory and it mounts these file systems. Okay, so this what makes it persistent. That's pretty much it for NFS. And I mean, basically, if you when you want to unmount the file system, just make sure you're not in the file system. Okay, if you're trying to unmount it while you're in it, you're gonna get this. The request is if the resource is busy. Okay, f user slash mnt. Okay, that's telling you that this process is in the mnt is using the mnt file system, and that's why you cannot unmount it. So when we do a grep um, on this process ID, and that process ID comes back as your what? As your corn shell script that you're logged into. So what's my session? I'm logged in as root PTS1. Here's a corn shell session PTS1. So basically, I just get out of it. If there's any processes that's running that's using the MNT, if there's any process that's been kicked off that's from the MNT from the NFS mount point, you won't be able to unmount it unless you get rid of everything that's attached to that file system that you are trying to unmount. Once you get rid of everything, just do unmount slash MNT. Bada boom, bada bing. That's it, and it's unmounted. Okay, that's it for NFS. Pretty straightforward when it works. It could be a handful and a headache when it doesn't. Just always make sure the daemons are running. Make sure that the servers are able to communicate through NFS. Always try to eliminate, if you're trying to troubleshoot any NFS type issues, do a process of elimination. Say you have server one, server two, and the NFS is not working. Bring in another client where you can try to do the NFS to make sure that it's is it the problem on the NFS server, or is it a problem on an NFS client? Try to test and see where the problem is. Okay, add another variable, add a server 3, and see if you can mount it on server 3. If you can mount it on server 3, you can't mount it on server 2, so that means there's a problem with NFS server 2. So then you can start troubleshooting on that server. Make sure the daemons are running. Make sure the two servers are able to communicate back and forth. Um, the the port that the NFS listen to, the port information is in the I believe it was a service, no, not the services file. The port is a port information in the services file, or is it another file? Let's see what the services file has. Okay, I was right. NFS and the port informations are in the services file. So just do a grep NFS, but sorry, services, and here are all the ports that are a little bit which are related to NFS. Okay, it looks like there's some proprietary stuff out there. I don't know why this is commented out for some reason, but you just make sure that the ports are listening, are able to communicate back and forth. Then you should then that will help you to make sure that uh, help you to troubleshoot the issue. So let's see here. NFS. Trying to see if there is ports listed over here. See, I'm using the same server, so that kind of messes up the listen and establish between the two things. I don't have two servers to play with. Okay, thank you. Let me know if you have any problems. Bye.